A sport is an offer, like any activity or product out there. It has to compete with other offers for people's time, attention, and money. Sports marketing people, of course, know this, but it's usually not top of mind for federations or athletes. But the sports who understand this, though, they tend to grow, and those who don't, they kind of tend to slow. Stay tuned to hear how the sport of sailing is currently on a wave of refreshing and revisiting their offer in order to make it more accessible and to leverage the uniqueness of their sport. This is Athlete Story, your show if you want to keep a connection to your athletic identity and to the world of sports and to other athletes while pursuing your new mission in life after sports. I'm your host, Anja Bolbjerg, a former world top 10 skier in moguls and freeride skiing, now way into life after sports. I'd like to invite you to join other former athletes and me here on Athlete Story for resources to help you put your former sports career to work for you in life after sports. I think it's fascinating how big a role that marketing and messaging plays in our decisions every day, even in sports. And I'm not talking about how sponsors use sports and athletes to market their products. I'm talking about how sports itself needs to use marketing to stay relevant and interesting and keep recruiting new athletes. Now, you having been part of these tours and tournaments and competitions, I'm sure you've seen things that could be done better or sweeter or more modern, whatever. Think a little bit out of that established box. In skiing, we had a big movement around the turn of the millennium. 20 years ago. Skiing was losing popularity, and a couple of handfuls of athletes, young athletes in skiing, took matters in their own hands and created this new school movement, it was called. I think we'll have to do an episode on that one day, but today it's about the sport of sailing and how they're doing a whole makeover, both in the offer and in the marketing, to make it easier to get out on the water and to spin on the unique benefits that sailing has to offer. So I've invited Nynne Ammundsen from the new Sailing Champions League to come tell us the story about how they're building a more commercial tour and refreshing the offer of sailing as a competitive sport. So let's welcome Nynne Ammundsen. Hi, Nynne. Welcome to the Athlete Story podcast. So you kind of commercialized the whole concept of competitive sailing.
Yeah, that's true. It actually started in Germany, and we here in Denmark figured out that it was quite a good idea. The concept was really nice. So the Sailing League actually started as a concept in Germany, the Bundesliga, and then Denmark came on the year after. And then actually now it's 23 countries who's doing the league, and most of them is commercialized. It makes really good sense because we own the boats and we race a lot all over the country. It's 18 clubs in each of the divisions. So the first division is the 18 best clubs in Denmark, and it's of course the same in the second league.
Why is it better, in your words, to do it like this than the way it's always been done?
One of the main reasons is it's a bit complicated for the federations to have this really focused concept as a league sailing. The federation needs to take care of sailors who is just beginning, 5 years old sailors. They need to take care of a lot of all the volunteers work. They need to take care of so many different things, and that's a really big task for the federation. For that reason, this league sailing does not really fit into the federation's system, actually, I would say. But I mean, we are really close, but sometimes it just makes better sense when it's such a small thing, if you can say that, for the whole federation to make it as a more commercialized concept. Mm-hmm. But still with like input and a lot of, I would say, development with the federation, but we just have so many ideas which the federation, for some reason, cannot be responsible for because it's not really in their mission, and it's in our mission to be commercialized. And as a federation, you are not supposed to be 100% commercialized.
If you're like in some other sport and you say, well, I think I can make a better tour than what we have already in my sport, what does it take to start a whole tour like that? Like, where do you even begin?
I think I would really make sure that I knew I had my staff ready. It really takes the right staff to make a tour. But we see it in the different countries as well. We have a certain person in France who is just willing to almost die for his league. And it's the same in Germany, and we see it in Sweden, and we see it in different other concepts within the Sailing League, within the women on water and our e-sailing concept too. You need that certain person who is willing to break a leg, or would you say it, to succeed.
Is it like a privately owned? Could you say, well, now we've built this brand, the league here, now let's put it for sale and see who wants to buy it? Can you do that, or is it still like the federation's brand?
Each country has different obligations to the federation. From our point of view, I think we would definitely need to speak to the federation first. From business perspective, it would be a better idea, I think, to have a sponsor on board saying, so this is your brand, you're part of the league now, you can commercialize, you can use our branding, you can use the sailors, the clubs, the whole concept into your own business strategy. As we see it with Carlsberg recently, they actually made a whole 2020 strategy about sailing, Sail 22 it was called, and it was all about what you learn from sailing. So how you react, the team spirit, how you need to be able to take a decision every second, almost when you're on the water. And even though you think you have a goal in front of you, the finish line, then you need to change strategy almost all the time to reach your finish line. And that part of how would you say sailing as a concept is from our point of view a better way to develop sailing than just sailors. I would say we really appreciate our partners than just selling the concept.
How do they use it? Do they use it for their own staff, or is it more like to be associated with a good sailing education and the lessons that lie in there?
Definitely the first. It's an intern strategy. The CEO, says Hart, published it a few months ago, and now they are working hard on it as I figure out in Carlsberg these days. I
know that you've made like kind of a collateral product, which is women on water. Wow. Can you tell us more about that?
The story is quite nice, actually. We had a Danish team who was sailing the finals of the Sailing Champions League. All the best teams all over the world sailing in this sailing league concept. It could be Germany, it could be France, Sweden, Norway, Russia. The best teams from each country get into the final. And we had a Danish team. We actually had a few, but one team was only female sailors, and they were shining. We sailed the final in Bolbjerg, which is a really, really nice area, really good waves, wind, boats, everything is just really nice. And the Danish team just blowed away everyone, even the hosting club too. So we figured out when we were down there that it was a shame that they couldn't really have anyone to sail against. It was all female sailors on that boat, and that was it. There was maybe one or two girls on the other boats, but otherwise it was actually just men. Right. And the Danish team from the Royal Danish Yacht Club, KDY, said, we want some female sailors to compete to, otherwise we will never get better. So how can we do that? And we sat with the two of the Danish sailors, Henriette Koch, a former Olympic sailor, and Josephine Bohl, who is a match race sailor. And we just figured out we need to do this. We need to get some women on water. And that's actually where it started. So we asked out saying, what can we do? And they said, we just need to be on our own. If there's a man on board, then the man will more or less take over. And then we're back to scratch. So we actually set up some events and some concepts, some networks meeting where it's only for female sailors. And slowly but surely, they are coming out saying, I would like to sail too, but down where I live, we're not that many female sailors. And every time we go out, it's almost every time the man who's taking over, and then we're back to scratch. And we were like, yes, exactly. We know that story. So we've actually just said to the men, just give us one day, for example, could be a Thursday. So Thursday in a certain club, it's only female sailors. And then slowly but surely we're growing. So we started with race only for female sailors, and we were a little bit unsure if the timing was right. Did we have enough female sailors who was actually willing to compete against each other in Denmark? Because the popularity of female sailors is a bit now and then unsure to define, because we don't really know. There's a lot of female sailors who used to sail, and then they had kids and they came back, and it was a bit unsure for us. Mm-hmm. But actually the race was sold out in a few days, and we had a waiting list. So we started out really well with the first event in Sundby in Copenhagen, and we're doing it actually in third third year. So we had to increase the number of participants. We had to increase the number of teams. So we had teams from all over the world, actually, Portugal, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Finland. So it's a huge success, and we actually sold, as we spoke about before, we sold the concept to different countries now. So WOW is established in Hungary, Sweden, Portugal, Switzerland is doing it. So slowly but surely, other sailing federations is figuring out that this is a really good way to kind of get women on board.
It's kind of unique in sailing that way, yeah, that you have to do this in order for women to actually get to lead a boat and do their own thing and not just follow orders.
Yeah, well, in the Olympic sailing, the females are really, really good, but due to certain different things, then kids come in and work takes some time, and then it can be difficult for the female sailors to get back on track. Mm-hmm. But for this project, the sailing league concept is that you just show up, you sail, and you leave. You don't have to prepare your boat. You don't have to figure out what to do with the sails during the winter and everything. It's a little bit more expensive though, but the league takes care of everything. So we call it just like you have for fitness. You just go, train, and go home. And that's what it's all about. We make it really, really easy for the sailors.
It really is a couple of teammates. And then you can just show up. The boat will be there. And
yeah. We've tried to make it really, really easy to go on the water just for a few hours, actually.
Yeah.
And also that is just a thing because it can be really, really windy and cold and so on. So just a few hours is actually enough. You don't have to be, on the water training super hard for 7 hours. That can kill all kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah. And then I think you do like more events around the sailing as well, right? To get help women network better and connect with each other.
Yeah, but that's a way of commercializing too. We hope that we, together with the WOW network, which we established, could get, just a touch to some companies, major companies who actually thought like Carlsberg, this sailing concept is quite nice and we would like to cooperate with a company like this. So we've got some few companies on board. We've not really managed to get a huge sponsor yet, which would be really nice because as a commercial part, you have to work for your own salary kind of almost every day.
Mm-hmm. So if there's anybody out there listening thinking this is interesting, what do you offer sponsors?
We offer them a huge range of different options. It depends on which company it is. Of course, our car sponsor, we just signed with a new partner. They are with us every day because without our cars, we couldn't do the league. So they are a major part of our life actually every day. So we offer them a lot of hospitalities and we offer them visibility on our webpage, on our social media. We do all the press releases for them for every race actually. We do some press releases. And of course, they have their own boat if they fancy. So they can go on practice to figure out and to show the employees what it is sailing actually can do. Because even though you're not a pro sailor, probably you never sailed before, you can actually go and do a really good job on the boats. And just that kind of team spirit is worth a lot of money for a lot of companies. So that's what we're trying to do when we have our small little pitch out there.
Excellent. And you said you've sold it to all these countries. So what do you help them get started? Do you have is it like a franchise? They get like all these things and gadgets to set it up and have to follow a certain, how's the business model with that?
Well, it's a kind of a franchise. So they get the logo, they get the first how to do, what to set up, what is it, like we call it the Danish case. Mm-hmm. What do you do to get started? Because it's actually, when you just have the idea and how would you say it, if you're motivated to start, then it's actually just to go. It makes really good sense when you're running. So we actually help them get it going, start with the first press release, the logo, the invitation for the first event. How would you organize it? What does it look like when you're sailing? How would you kind of cooperate? How would you coordinate? And all that kind of stuff. So it's actually down to logistics and the planning, because sailing in Portugal, for example, They are way ahead of us in some ways, and in that way we help each other. But because we figured out how the logo is, the branding, how we would like the events to be, we are the, would say it, mother of the brand, but we like to franchise it and get them on board. But it's really different. Sailing WOW in Cascais, for example, in Portugal is a lot different to sailing WOW in Copenhagen and Denmark and compared to Hungary. So we better customize it a bit.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to, can you participate, like say, in a Danish event, but then say, I want to go to Portugal and participate there? Can you still come as a foreigner and participate there?
Yeah, you can, but then we will set you up with a team so you'll not be like on your own. Okay. So we have our Facebook page where we kind of connect Women on Water on Facebook, connect sailors who would like to go on a sailing event or just go sailing somewhere in Denmark or outside Denmark. We can help too.
Is that an open group that you can apply to join?
Yes, it is. And then you can just send us a text message and we will forward it to one of our ambassadors around the country.
Nice. That's a really cool concept.
Thank you.
I know you've been playing around, I don't know how far you're with it, but e-sailing and this whole eSports, I'm a little behind, I think, but it's totally new to me. So what's the point with eSports and e-sailing?
Well, yeah, it's exploding, as you know, in all over the world and in different kind of sports too. Mm-hmm. And our mother, the Danish Sailing Federation, has been kind of invited to join the eSports, and because we think it's a really interesting part for club development, which is what the league does too. Mm-hmm. We thought that it might be a way to go. So we said, yes, take us. We would like to be part of the team who's developing. So mm-hmm. we actually cooperate with one of the best e-sailors in Denmark. He's the best these days, Lucas Mohr. And then the Danish Sailing League, our project called Youngsters, which is sailing for young people from 13 to 22. Mm-hmm. And then the Danish Sailing Federation. So we had made this application in autumn 2019 for the Denmark's Sports Federation. Mm-hmm. And then we got a really good funding to start up this project. So these days we are just about to publish the whole setup with ambassadors, flyers, stickers, everything, events. The Danish Championship is just around the corner, the first one ever in e-sailing. So it's really, really big these days.
Weather is a pretty important factor in sailing. How do you add in that factor in e environment?
Well, in e-sailing, the weather is always really nice. You could say that. So it's, as for example, in cycling, you cycle and you will be super sweaty and it will be hard and you will do your VATs on the bike. But e-sailing is different. So you're more doing the tactics. You're playing on your iPad or on the computer. So it's more on the focus, on the rules, and to be tactical on the course and the buoyancy and different kind of boats. So we actually practice different boats type. So it will be for you skiing. It will maybe be going alpine and then also doing, I'm not so much into skiing, but a different kind of skiing too. So we compete in different boats in e-sailing, and it will make you to a better sailor when you go on the water, when the weather is better.
So there is that purpose with it, that you do want to take people from E and out on the water. Yeah,
for sure. It's a part of a development plan for the coming years. We want to develop sailing and we want to be more popular. And we think that e-sailing is a part or an area where we can kind of catch some people who is into eSports and actually get them into the federations and get them down to the clubs and then go sailing, hopefully when the weather is really nice. So the e-sailing concept is for non-sailors too. My background is not from sailing, but I'm competing in the e-sailing too. I wouldn't say top 10, but I do manage to get around the buoyancy and finish at a certain point. So that's a really good way to practice, because also for sailing, as for skiing and for a lot of other sports, damaging your gear is really, really expensive, and pushing it really to the limit, see how far you can go upwind, go downwind. You can actually do a lot of practice without any damage, which is really, really nice for the sailors and for the club, of course.
Nice. Well, let's get that story before we wrap it up here. Because you were an athlete as well and competed in triathlon.
Yes.
How did you transition from being an athlete and over into working in sailing and events like this?
I actually started road racing and triathlon when I used to live in Singapore. So it was actually all my experience as an athlete, you know, doing the check-in, putting my bike on the ranks, where's the starting area, where's my nutrition, all that stuff that I took with me as a project manager for first duathlon and then for this sailing. But I think my force for the sailing league is that I do not have any kind of experience with sailing. I did a few things many years ago, a few tours, but it wasn't at this level at all. So from my point of view, I think the good thing from my background is that I have focused on a lot of things, nutrition too, and all that. But in our league setup, it is that I question mark some things because the sailors just take it now and then for granted, and maybe it's not the best way to organize it. Maybe it's not the best way to do it. Now and then you need a different saying to get other people's on board interested, because if you just keep, how would you say it, repeating different words, certain words that I as a non-sailor do not understand, then sailing will never be as a public sport as we hope it will be soon.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson to end it with, that we can because the audience of this show is former athletes mostly, and we talk a lot about how to transition out of the sports and finding that new mission after sports. And I think it's beautiful to see how you are repurposing the skills that you have from your sports, but also leveraging that over into even the things that you don't know anything about being an advantage, if you know what I mean.
You need to see it that way to succeed now and then. But I really actually think that it's a good way that people, when they hire, for example, in the ski business, that a former ski athlete is a really good way to start, but not being afraid of taking other competences and backgrounds and educations into. It's a strength for a lot of companies, I would say. And that's, from my point of view and from my background, we came with a different funding and a different economy, and sponsors wasn't a big issue as it is here in sailing. So that kind of experience is really interesting too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share this with us. I think it's super exciting what you guys are doing.
Sure.
Good luck with the launch of your or whatever you call it.
E-sailing, yes.
And to all the listeners out there, if you feel hooked on starting some kind of event, or maybe even starting a Women on Water where you're at, well, you know where to go. So we have Women on Water group on Facebook, and you're on Instagram as well, right?
Yeah. And we are that with the eSailing Denmark too. And we are that with the Sejlsports Liga, the Danish Sailing League. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and even though YouTube and LinkedIn. So please join us.
Oh, thank you very much. And consider yourself part of the Athlete Story Community Minute.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Bye.